Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're tuned into India Tonight with me, Sumita, Kareer, and my colleague Ankur Mishra, who's joining us from our Bombay studios. And Ankur, there is lots that's happening as far as satellite communications is concerned, because Starlink has shared the pricing for residential satellite internet service in India on their official website. The 8,600 rupees per month fee will include unlimited data, a 30-day trial, and weather resilient service that essentially guarantees higher than 99.9% uptime. But there is also a hardware cost of 34,000 during installation. In fact, earlier in July this year, India's space regulator granted Starlink the license to launch the commercial operations. The Elon Musk-led firm had been waiting since 2022 for complete permissions. My colleague Charu is joining us with more details. Charu, put into perspective the pricing strategy of Starlink as far as the India market is concerned for the company.
Starlink has come out with a very interesting announcement on its website. They said that for residential plans, it's going to cost about 8,600 rupees per month, and for installation of the device, it is going to cost about 34,000 rupees. Now, since this is slightly higher from what is already available in the domestic market, they've said that this is something that is going to sort of promise that about 99.9% of the time there's going to be very fine connectivity. Apart from that, we must understand that Starlink is yet to sort of start its ground activities and have an operational infrastructure in the country in terms of giving out domestic services. However, another thing that is a big question mark here is the business plan that Starlink is going to offer in India, because they have not said anything on their website about what kind of business plans they are going to be, giving out for broader connections or for broader requirements. Apart from this, there are two other players who are giving these sort of services already present in India. One of them is Jio. Another big question in this sector is about the spectrum allocation, whether they will be allocated spectrum, whether there will be an auction, how that is going to be worked out. So once they get those sort of permits and licenses and everything worked out, they'll have to look at what kind of ground infrastructure has to be built, and after that, this is going to be the pricing that is going to be brought to the consumers.
All right, Charu, thank you so much for those details. And interesting prices which has been kept by Starlink for entering into Indian market. And to discuss that, we have with us Sanjay Kapoor, entrepreneur and TMT advisor and board member. Mr. Kapoor, I want to understand and digest the price first. 8,600 rupees per month, plus there is an installation fees of 34,000. How competitive you think the pricing is?
I think we need to get the basics right over here. In my mind, this was never going to be a service that supplements what the terrestrial operators offer you. This was going to be complementing and to begin with those players or those customers who are serious users of data and communication but are not served today because they are in a network dark area. So this clearly aims at consumers in the B2C space towards the customer of that nature. This is not aimed at the unserved marginal customers in rural India. This is not the plan. The jury is still out on what the pricing of the spectrum will be, whether it will be administratively allocated or it will be an auction that will happen. We know that prices of the most expensive raw material that's required to run these services, which is the spectrum, are probably the dearest in the world, right? And if you were to go by those standards, then howsoever they might get the allocation, the charge will not be marginal. It will be a serious charge that will be there. I think their enterprise business will be a more serious business where they will serve those enterprises that don't get coverage today by the operators, either via fiber or through wireless. I think that will be the mainstay. This consumer services at this price only addresses the top end of the market where the customer needs this data and connectivity.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Mr. Kapoor. So what it seems like from what you've stated is that Starlink is looking at enterprise business, expanding the enterprise business and catering to that business in the country, not so much as the consumer business. But quite likely, if Starlink does it, other players will also follow suit. Then will satellite services, which are expected to be the next frontier of connectivity, the government has also been speaking about how this is going to bridge the rural and urban divide. Will this spectrum of satellite services, will this remain an exclusive club?
Look, in my parlance, all the telecommunication businesses are mark-to-market businesses. You have to compete with others who are operating in the same space in the market. And India will not be bereft of almost all the players in this market globally. The technology is also evolving. Today, you require customer premise equipment for a category of service where you need that CPE to get connected. There are other services that are also exploring the market and probably will be here in the next year or so, will be where your own device can be used to get connected. And maybe the prices over there will be less. But nevertheless, all these folks who provide these services will have to be competitive in the marketplace, like Jio, Airtel, and VIL. The way they compete, these guys will compete in a similar fashion. I don't expect that somebody will be priced at an X and the other will survive by providing services at 5X. They'll all be competing with each other. And I think as more and more players launch, it'll uncover what sort of potential on pricing sits in the market. But for now, it's very clear that it's aimed at the premium end of the market. This is not serving the marginal customer who was unserved either because of a fiber dark or a wireless dark network area that he was living in or operating out of.
Right, Mr. Kapoor, the promise of 99%, in fact, more than 99% uptime and weather resilient connectivity is something what Starlink is pitching for. First part of the question, I want to understand that if you compare with existing services, how much of the uptime is actually there? And also, do you think this is going to be a real differentiator as you are saying about the premium end?
In India, to walk away with the market by promising a 99% uptime may not be the stickiest, selling point in the market. It might appeal to some people who have mission critical, services and applications that are depending on this connectivity. But bulk of the people are happy with the services that get provided today by the current operators. As long as fiber is there, that'll give you a bigger uptime unless until there's a fiber cut in a developing country. Fiber cuts do happen because there's so much of development happening all across the country all the time. But wireless, as you know, is a technology where the backhaul happens, in a wireless fashion again. There's not fiber through and through. And therefore, when there is a problem with the, environment, there's rain or there is wind or there is a storm, then the services do get disrupted. And we know that happens all the time. But I think by and large, people have not had a hue and cry about the availability of services. They are by and large available. So I think right now, those mission critical projects and those customers who depend on this service, but these services are not available from Airtel or Jio, I think for them it's a lifesaver. So the price doesn't matter. Instead of 8,500, if you were to charge 18,500, they'll probably pay that price.
Absolutely, Mr. Kapoor. And uptime, essentially, like you stated, is not going to be the differentiator, but pricing definitely, from my point of view, given the fact that, Ankur, I'm not going to pay so much, 8,500 rupees a monthly for a satcom services, especially given the fact that our data prices have incredibly low. But let me ask you, Mr. Kapoor, now, how do you really see the satcom market develop over the next couple of years? And how do you see prices in the industry moving from, let's say, 8,500 rupees per month? Where do you see prices headed over the next couple of years?
First of all, just to look at the pricing without a context may not be right. You have to see it in context of what they are trying to serve and who they are trying to serve. Obviously, they are saying not for the mass market at the moment. And like I said, these services are just complementing the terrestrial services that are available. They're not going to supplement any one of those. They're not going to be competing with an Airtel or a Jio. And similarly, the regulators are not going to allow them to be competing with those players who've invested tons of money over years, developed formidable networks, and then somebody comes and these services are going to supplement some of those services in those areas where there is a network dark sort of a environment. That's how I see it. I think they will remain premium because the cost of providing these services, cost of hosting satellites, cost of maintaining satellites is not cheap. And then they're giving in a lot of data. They're promising uptimes. They are promising customer experience that will be paramount for them to survive over a longer period in time. But I think they will live along with the terrestrial operators, and prices over time should come down as they get higher penetration. But initially, if you see globally, it is the existing customers who takes, say, for example, a roaming, with those services where the same handset can be used. And therefore, they can move around with the same device to areas which are not served by the existing terrestrial operators. But in this case, you need a CPE, a customer premise equipment, which means that roaming thing may not work. You need dedicated areas where the service will be provided. So this is a different application altogether. And right now, I think those individuals and those corporations which are not being served either by fiber or by wireless will opt for these services because they are lifesavers for them.
Thank you so much for your time and joining at this hour with your views. And we all will wait that what other pricing plans are unveiled by Starlink. But as Sumita has made clear, she is not going to buy, nor do I. But we need to wait and see about the premium customers.